So with Allan Brooks himself, obviously, to be detailed the way he was back then, he would draw some of the birds from memory, from seeing them sitting there on a tree. He would look at his drawing and try to bring it to life with color.
He was more of an impressionistic artist trying to document the birds and the wildlife and the scenery that they're in and the vegetation. And he spent a lot of time really focusing in on the small details.
He was commissioned to actually do magazine covers in the US and
encyclopedias.
Yeah.
He was very well known.
Allan Brooks was more than just a bird watcher. He was a masterful artist who brought his subjects to life through his paintings. But how did he do it? What techniques did he use, and what made his work so exceptional? Today we meet Jordan Perkins, a local artist, to uncover the secrets behind Brooks's art. So here we are now, we're at your house, Jordan Perkins, the famous, the one and only.
Oh, you're too kind.
Before we get into the mind of Allan Brooks and the style and what he probably used and how he painted, and more importantly, what inspired you to do all this, so I can get in your mind, I might be able to get into his mind. Let's start off with a little bit of your background. How did you get into painting?
Well, it was kind of coincidental. 2015, I went to Dollarama with my daughter and we picked up some paint supplies, and it was just something I enjoyed, and I started making easy art. I kept Googling, you know, art for beginners and easy paintings, and just kind of decorated my house until I realized that this hobby became a bit more, and just kept at it.
What were you doing before that?
So I've always been in the restaurant business.
Okay.
And you know, one of my problems with the restaurant business was there was never a finished product. You know, there was never anything tangible at the end of the day. It was a good day, a bad day, big sales, low sales, complaints, no complaints, but there was never something you could hold. And my whole career, I always said, I'm gonna quit and paint fences one day, just so I can, you know, start at one end and drive by and see something done.
Yeah.
And it turned out that this afternoon with my daughter turned into, you know, 10 years later, it's a career.
So you wanted to start off by actually bonding with your daughter, being a great dad.
Yeah.
And it turned out to be a career.
Yeah, well, you know, instead of going out with my buddies and doing what they were doing, or, you know, spending more time cutting the grass than I should be, I was in the kitchen and painting at the bar. Yeah. And it was nice to have something finished.
Yeah.
And in the progress, watching yourself get better and in practice makes you better.
So are you the kind of guy that goes outdoors and throws up an easel and paints while he's looking at something, or what's your style?
So I have, typically I'm copying from photos now. So what I'll do is find free reference photos or photos that customers will send me, and I'll copy them, but I'll copy them as you see in more of an artsy style. So it's kind of like a spontaneous realism where it's gonna look like the subject,
yeah,
but it's gonna be artsy. It's gonna be different colors or, you know, slightly off.
So not like a boring photo, you're gonna give it life.
That's right, yeah. If I wanted it to look realistic, you know, I couldn't do it anyway, but if I wanted to, I would spend a lot more time at it, and I would try to make it with the natural colors.
Well, what I noticed with your painting is things pop.
Yeah.
Like it's not just the foreground and nothing in the background. It's you focus on the background and the foreground. Like you give it a lot of life.
That's right. So I want it to be contrasting colors. I want it to look painterly so you can see the brush strokes, and I want it to be what it's supposed to be, but I also want it to be art.
Yeah. Well, let's get into your studio.
Yeah,
and then maybe chat about Allan Brooks's thought process, maybe how he, painted, maybe some of the gear that he used, and maybe you can teach me a couple of things.
I think the gear's changed in the last 100 years, so we'll see.
Let's go.
Let's go.
Okay, so here we are in front of, this is a client's
That's right. It's
job that
it's
you
a
did
commission piece. The hummingbird had significance to her and her daughter, so she asked me to come up with a painting, and this is it.
So looking at this now, obviously Allan Brooks was famous for painting birds. Can we talk a little of the historical stuff? So about 100 years ago, what would have Allan Brooks used that you might still use or is non-existent? Are paints the same? Are brushes the same?
Right, so in 100 years, I would imagine the paints and everything, the brushes could be fairly similar. However, I'm using a nylon brush. I'm not exactly sure what materials his brushes were made out of.
Yeah.
But I know the handle part still would have been wood back then.
Yeah.
Allan Brooks, as opposed, I'm using acrylic, and Allan Brooks used a watercolor. So he would have had, little bricks of the pigment, and he'd mix it with water with a very soft brush. And
So watercolor is, to dummy it down for our viewers and myself, it's exactly what it is. It's a chunk of something that you need to add water to mix.
Yeah, basically
soften it
it's a
up.
pigment, and you'll mix water with it, and depending how much water you mix with it and how much you stir it around is how thick the color will turn.
Oh.
So it's a very hard way to
Process,
paint
yeah.
because unlike acrylic here, where I can wait 10 minutes for this to dry and paint over it, the watercolor needs to seep in, so you're kind of at a one shot, from my understanding.
Okay.
Other things that I can use a digital projector. I can take a photo off the internet and I can project it onto here to get the proportions correct. And again, Allan Brooks couldn't have done that. He would have either had to, sketch out the drawing in the field,
Or eyeballing.
it, or have a specimen in his hands. So when he's back in his studio, he can get closer
Which
to
he
it.
did with the taxiderming portion of his life as well.
what I heard.
And I guess that's how he can be up close and personal, some of the birds.
And it would have been a brilliant idea.
So with Allan Brooks himself, obviously, to be detailed the way he was back then, either you got to have the specimen in front of you, which we know he did through taxidermy,
Right.
or memory. We know he drew as well, so he'd go out there when he was bird watching, which we've done in a few episodes, or in one of our episodes. He would draw some of the birds from memory, from seeing them sitting there on a tree. Bring him back home, I'm assuming, so now what you do is you're looking at a picture and trying to recreate it. He would look at his drawing and try to bring it to life with color.
You're absolutely right. So he was more of an impressionistic artist trying to document the birds and the wildlife and the scenery that they're in and the vegetation. And he spent a lot of time really focusing in on the small details. And myself, I'm not doing that. I'm taking something that looks normal and adding the colors to it, as opposed to he was trying to make it be more representative of the species.
So he's showing us what he saw with his eyes. What you're showing us is something only you see in your mind because you're so artistic. You're bringing something to life, but also adding the Jordan Perkins touch.
That's right. I'm trying to make mine more artistic, and he's trying to make his more,
Realistic.
realistic. Here is what the hummingbird looks like.
Yeah.
And I'm saying, here's what it could look like if you use all the other colors.
Yeah. Okay, cool, I love that. And then the other thing he did, which we saw some photos of, was he would, like many did back in the day, they'd pop down an easel on the field somewhere, grab a chair, and paint the landscape as you see it right there and then.
That's right. I think he would have done a few different techniques. I think one of them would have been, field painting, where he would sketch it out and he would do the watercoloring right there, perhaps add some birds after the fact, or he would sketch it out, take it back to his studio or wherever he was and paint there. Back then, they didn't have the gear that we have now. They didn't have the rain jackets and the boots as we discussed earlier. So it could have been a lot harder trekking through.
Yeah.
The tools wouldn't have been as handy. The easel would have been heavier. They didn't have the technology. And his paintings, you've seen them, fantastic. And I think the biggest collections are actually in Canada still. So it's pretty remarkable.
And isn't it great now that we think about this, and now the experience that I personally got doing this docuseries is the respect I have for him, but not only him, people back in the day, when you used to go hiking, they didn't have hiking boots or the proper gear. Painting, like you said, everything was heavier back then. So if you had to bring your gear with you in flat leather shoes on, everything was so much harder, but they did it.
They did it. It was a tougher time, you know, and I guess perseverance pays off. And,
Yeah.
you know, I didn't know he was such a well-known artist. I always looked at him as a naturalist and environmentalist until recent. And I was shocked to see he's got thousands and thousands of paintings out there.
He was commissioned to actually do magazine covers in the US and
encyclopedias. He was very well known.
Yes, he was, and that's why we're doing this.
That's right.
So the next step now is I want to feel what Allan Brooks felt like. So
you want to try painting?
I want to try a little painting, but I want to see what your process is as well. So let's go over to your studio in the corner there and make something come to life.
Let's do it.
Let's do it. So the starting process, what Allan Brooks did and what you do. What is your starting process?
Well, in the last couple hundred years, things have changed a lot.
I'm sure.
I don't go out into the field now and draw pictures of
You bring the field indoors.
I bring the field inside. The internet is a wonderful thing. Yeah. So Allan Brooks would have been out there in his gun boots and everything, and he would have set up a little table, and he would have had all his little paints in there, and he'd add his water. And he probably was painting, 12 by 18 inch paintings. And he would be doing it right there, making the sketches. For me, I copy off of a photo and render it on this giant canvas.
So what's the first process that you do? Is it you draw like pencil, marker? Like what do you use to do the outlines and everything?
For me, because I'm using an acrylic paint, I always do one base layer over top of the canvas, and then I do the drawing. And then
when you say base layer, you mean like a specific color?
So how this is blue right now, yes, I'll just blanket the whole thing with one color and just kind of build it up from there. It's like a puzzle where you just keep adding and adding and adding. And with the acrylics, it dries quick, so you can just keep adjusting it.
I love this because it kind of looks like Aurora Borealis.
That's right. It's alright. It could be a background. It could be finished almost.
Yeah. Okay, and then what's the next process? So after drawing, obviously, then you fill it in.
So yeah, I'll fill it in with paints. My goal is to make this super colorful using hot and cold colors. So I'm not doing the documentary style that Allan Brooks would use. And I'll fill it in, and I'll just kind of keep working around the canvas until it's finished. After that, I like to put mine on the ground and do some splatters and add some stencils. And I finish it with something they didn't have back then, and that's a polyurethane clear coat to make sure that it's going to be waterproof and UV protected. Oh,
because that's a big thing, obviously.
Could be.
Especially if you want something to last 50 years or so.
That's right.
So that's why we're seeing things like, I collect comic books. So from comic books to old art or whatever, that's why you see it fading the color. It doesn't never stay true to where it was when it was first done.
You need to protect things.
Okay, that's really good. So with Allan Brooks now, he obviously didn't have this. What do you think he did back then? Was it a pencil he would have used? After sketching, being on the field, now he's at home. He would have taken that image that he drew, and then how would he put it on canvas?
I think he would have used a graphite. In my opinion, he'd probably use a graphite or some sort of charcoal to do the drawing, and then he would lay it all out and either look at a previous sketch to do this, or maybe he's got the sample in his hand and start adding his colors to it. He wanted to document them, so he was really trying to get the accuracy of the landscape.
He was trying to get a picture.
He wanted a picture. Yeah, he wanted you to show you what trees they're hanging out and what vegetation is around, and what the males and what the females would look like.
Yeah.
And you can check it out. The internet's he's got thousands.
No, he does. And we're blessed in Vernon because we have his images everywhere. If you go to the public art gallery, if you go to the museum archives,
or the Allan Brooks Nature Conservancy Center.
Totally. That's where I was going next. Yeah.
They, I think, have one of the largest painting collections in Canada.
Yeah, we're really blessed here in Vernon, and we're really blessed that he called Vernon home.
That's right.
So I see right in front of us now, you've got a bunch of paint out there. So maybe we're going to start seeing how you do things, and maybe you can show me how to help you.
Yeah, you want an apron?
Let's try it.
So this is really awkward. Yeah.
Both over?
No, that one in there and then this one in here.
Oh, okay.
So the key is just to make, it doesn't matter what color you're using, as long as your light spots are lighter than the dark spots, if that makes sense. So you could use pink here, yellow here, red, blue, whatever, as long as the light is lighter than where the shadow would be, if that makes sense.
Yeah, yeah.
So a lot of people think you're just gonna put a stroke down and that's that, but that's not that. The reality is, for me, unlike the watercolors where he could theoretically be putting down a layer of watercolor and that is the end, I need to keep adjusting things. So I'll just keep adding and adding and adding.
You're giving it more, it's becoming more dimensional.
Yeah, and that's the thing. And so like I was saying, it doesn't matter what colors you're using as long as you're adding lights and darks. So I will get a little bit of paint on here, and I will touch all of them with it.
So I got a question here. First of all, Allan Brooks never painted anything this large.
He would have a tough time getting this into the field. Yeah.
We've noticed most of the sizes that he did were like 8x10s, if that.
Yeah.
Maybe a little larger.
And that's what was popular.
Smaller.
That was what was popular back then. That's probably what was sold back then. What people made back then.
Yeah, because that's all you can find. That's all you're going to use.
That's right. You only have the tools that are in your time.
And now you got different types of paint.
Different types of paint. We got this mechanic's desk where I keep all my tools in it.
And then, so you couldn't go out there and buy something this big like that back then?
Back then, no.
It was watercolored, you were mentioning.
His were watercolor. They probably came in little bricks or maybe powders that he would make on the spot, and his own textures.
And you would use like some kind of plate?
A palette. So you've seen it where you're holding the palette. And
with the different colors all around.
Bits of paint.
And his little paintbrush.
That's right. So they'd have them with little dips perhaps for him where he could put his watercolor in there, and then he would paint on there. But bigger paintings, bigger palette.
Bigger brushes.
Bigger brushes.
Look at this thing.
Yes, that's right. Allan Brooks
huge.
was not using these. So these are about an inch and a half. And nowadays I just get my brushes from Dollarama. Allan Brooks though would have used something like this where it was a bit softer. And it would, he'd be able to mix his water with his color, and then he wouldn't be painting up and down like this either. He'd be painting on a slight angle or just like on a table like this.
Why?
As the watercolors could drip.
Oh, watercolors, which you have.
Watercolors
That
could
makes
drip
sense.
if he's got the
So there's no way he did this like this.
There's no way he did this like this. And but he probably did start with a drawing and
Filled it in.
And at some point in his career, they had cameras.
Yeah.
It wasn't that he was out there having to draw everything. There was
Back then, it was those big tripod wooden ones that you had to put the draping over your head and look in. It was probably upside down, I think, the way it was set.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, now you can't take a picture really quick with your iPhone, go home and paint.
That's right. And nowadays, you use the technology you're giving. So this photo it's not a photo from a bear. It is an AI generated image. For a photographer to capture something so perfect like this with the mama bear and the two baby cubs, it's pretty unrealistic. So you use the tools that you're given at the time.
And that's what I like about what you do now. So Allan Brooks would go out there, go through the
Break his back.
field, break his back, hike wherever it is to bird watch, find the birds, write down. Not only he drew what he saw, but he would also make a lot of notes.
That's right.
Like, maybe what they ate, or maybe there was a specific time of day he would see them, or everything, mating, everything.
That's right.
And what time of the year they come out, or if they go south or whatever. But then he would quickly draw them, because he does have a journal that we found, and then he would come back and bring it to life. But where we live in right now, you can literally just go online, or somebody can send you a photo, because you do dogs as well, don't you?
That's right.
So,
lots of pet portraits.
a lot of pet portraits, and maybe a pet that had passed.
Yep.
And they'll send you the photo, and you bring it back to life, but you do it the JP way.
Colorful style.
Yeah.
So you see these quails, when they're finished, it's not a finished painting, but Allan Brooks would have made the colors exactly like the quail color. But for me, I want to make them look like quails, but also make them artsy, because I'm not trying to document it. These are not going into encyclopedias or dictionaries or universities.
They don't have to be accurate.
That's right. They need to be
more
fun.
artsy and
Yeah,
fun.
more fun.
So,
why don't you grab a brush here?
Okay.
Let's get you a
What do you want me to do?
We're going to look at our photo over here.
Okay.
And you're gonna paint the light spots. So we got light up here. So we're gonna use some yellows and lighter colors and darks down here. So pick your favorite color, and we'll find a spot to put it on the canvas. How about your second favorite color?
Well, you've already made that there.
Sure,
So,
let's get some orange and we'll get some yellow.
so mix them together.
Yeah, just
Orange?
Well,
on the same
that's
side?
it. You could just go, let's get you just orange.
Okay.
So we got some light orange here. We know back here is gonna be a shadow, so we're gonna get your darker orange kind of cover up my yellow here.
Okay, so
Let's get you down here coloring this a darker orange.
I'm going upwards?
Yep, up or down, or you just kind of smush it around. That's the beautiful thing about paint is all you're really doing is spreading it. So as we go down, we know that the light is up here, the light source.
Yeah.
These areas are gonna be a bit darker. So right now I'm doing base coats, and I'm gonna come back to this later and refine it. And it's just layer after layer after layer.
And I like how when you're mixing colors, it actually gives them more depth as well.
Well, that's right, and that's why I start with a base coat. In this case, it happened to be blue, is that these colors actually kind of show through as you go.
You know what's really cool about painting? I'm just feeling this right now. I'm feeling relaxed.
It can be relaxing, unless it's a commission.
What do you mean? When you have a specific time limit?
Well, when you have to paint somebody's pup, let's say,
Yes.
it has to look exactly like their dog. This painting here is not a commission for anybody, so it doesn't have to be
Anything specific.
as exact. And if, you know, like I'm drawing over this guy's lip already,
Yeah.
or painting over it, you know, but I'll go back and I'll redo it. And it's just layers. My goal with my painting is to kind of keep your eye busy and let your eyes imagine part of the painting.
So speaking of painting as well, and Allan Brooks, the two worlds are colliding.
The two worlds are colliding.
This New Year's Eve, this docuseries will come out after it, but you get commissioned a lot for non-for-profits or fundraising events where you'll come in and do some live painting.
Yep. So
And
this will be my second year, actually. The Allan Brooks Nature Conservancy has a gala every New Year's Eve.
Yeah.
And what I do is I go and I paint a large 4-foot by 4-foot painting. And at the end, after the audience watches me for the 3 or 4 hours, we auction it off and donate the proceeds to the Allan Brooks.
and you're doing this at lots of other functions as well. So
That's right,
This
yeah.
is becoming a really cool entertainment portion of an evening if you think about it.
That's right. I call it the silent entertainment. It's a win-win-win. It's a win for the customers, a win for the charity, and it's a win for me to keep me going.
While you're having cocktails or hors d'oeuvres and mingling and such, there's this artist making something come to life. As you're having dinner, you're seeing more of it
Yep.
come to life, and then by the end of the evening, you can own it.
You can own it. You can help paint it just like you. So I encourage people to come help paint it,
wow.
put their mark on it. And this year we're gonna do a hummingbird at the Allan Brooks Nature Conservancy Gala.
Nice.
Last year it was blue heron because, as you know, blue herons are very prevalent in Vernon.
Yes.
And we're gonna keep it the bird themed for Allan Brooks.
And how big of a canvas are you bringing that night?
His gonna be that one's gonna be a foot shorter.
Okay.
So it's gonna be 4 by 4 foot hummingbird and something similar that we saw earlier on.
Something I'm noticing right now too is, do you like a larger canvas or do you like the smaller ones? I'm feeling, before you answer this, I'm feeling like you have more freedom the larger it is, and it has to be more detailed the smaller it is.
That's right. So you'd need smaller brushes.
Yes.
My canvas is very porous, so you'd need something a little smoother, I think, to paint small. And at the end of the day, this is the biggest size that fits in my truck. And so that's why I have mine. This is it. This fits.
You can't go any bigger because you can't deliver that
That's
personally.
right. Yeah. And I want my paintings to be the centerpiece in any room.
Yeah.
And they're not for everybody. But the old way, the Allan Brooks way, was smaller pieces.
Yeah.
And now people are really gravitating towards the bigger, brighter, colorful modern art.
I mean, there's a lot of homes that I see that have feature walls, what they call. So the 3 walls might be beige, but the back wall might be red. It's a feature wall.
Yep.
A lot of people now, to make the feature wall pop again, is adding something large like this.
That's right. And I don't think that large is going to go to style. I think it's going to continue. It's like a tattoo. You know, the more people that have
Totally.
them, the more people that.
But it fills space and it looks great, and it more to life. Like, look a close eye. Look at this guy's looking right at me.
It's going to be a fun painting when this is finished, and I'll send you a picture when I'm done, and we'll leave your mark. We got to circle your area here, and we'll leave that so that it's there when it's finished.
Do you mean I get to initial the bottom? I'm just joking. Awesome. Well, thank you so much. You really enlightened me in the world of art and brought me even closer to what Allan Brooks is going through.
It's awesome.
Thank
my
you
friend.
so
I
much.
appreciate it.
Thank you, brother.
Thank you.
Jordan gave us an incredible insight into Allan Brooks' artistic process, combining observation, skill, and patience to create timeless works of art. Next time, we'll dive into another one of Brooks' skills, taxidermy. Join me as we head over to the Canadian Wildlife Museum to learn how this fascinating craft ties into his legacy.